You're listening to The Mountain Spirit, a podcast of Christian Appalachian Project, where we share inspirational stories of faith, service, and compassion. I'm a firm believer that we're all connected by our shared humanity, and that finding that intersection sometimes just means having a conversation. Today we get to hear from Pastor Chris Kimbro, lead pastor of Kings River Worship Center and director of Community Bridge. I was reading an article from USA Today a couple of years ago from Amelia Farrell Knively, and it went something like this. Today, West Virginia remains one of the poorest states in the country, where 1 in 5 children struggle to access food. The story of West Virginia's entrenched poverty is told in data points, which land the state at or near the top of ominous national ratings. Worse health, worse education levels, worse employment. But it is often more nuanced than that. A puzzling factor of the state's ailing economy, for example, are the rolling mountains, which isolate towns from sorely needed industry and internet access, especially in coal country. When coal mine closures upended the economy in the 60s, it left the state with a declining population and workforce for generations. A dwindling student population led to school consolidations, while the state simultaneously experienced a troubling teacher shortage. When the article was written, West Virginia had 10,000 homeless students. Economic distress and an influx of pills led to an opioid crisis, which in turn fueled a foster care crisis. The majority of the 7,000 kids in state custody at the time were there due to parental drug use and negligence. And those types of stories go on and on and on. But today, we're going to hear from the director of a community organization that is working to bring hope and real help to families in need in Appalachia. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are so excited to have you on today to talk about Community Bridge. We've heard a lot of good things about Community Bridge and that the work you all are doing there in West Virginia. So we're just going to dive right in. So for our audience who may not be familiar with you or with your church or with Community Bridge, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what drew you to West Virginia?
Well, certainly. I have been the lead pastor of this church now for close to 6 years. Prior to being the lead pastor, I was the executive pastor, and before that, the youth pastor for 10. But originally, I am from Western Kentucky.
All right.
Yes, I was actually grew up in Clinton, Kentucky, right outside of Paducah, and I ended up in West Virginia in 1999.
All right.
The youth pastor that was at the church I was at in Kentucky moved to West Virginia, and I was his friend, and I came just to help him out to see what would happen. A little less than a year later, I moved, not knowing what I was going to do, why I was coming to West Virginia. I had no idea the plans God had in store for me. Moved here when I was 21 years old, just started helping out at a church and volunteering. 1 year later, that youth pastor left and decided to go on the evangelistic field, and the pastor of the church asked me if I would be interested in becoming the new youth pastor. And from then, I feel like it's been a whirlwind. I became a youth pastor in a church and wasn't married. And I ended up meeting my wife in the church, Amber, and her and I got married in 2003. So I believe that's what kept me in West Virginia. You know, God calls you to a place, gives you to a wife, and then, hey.
And a family as well.
That's right. This Kentucky boy became a West Virginian.
God always has a plan. He's always up to something when we're just like, oh, I'm just going to move and do this thing. And he's like, yeah, right.
Yes. Yeah.
So you were saying you were the youth pastor. What was the most challenging or exciting thing about transitioning from being a youth pastor to being in your pastoral role for the church?
Oh, well, between the youth pastor and the executive pastor, it was a real strong transition period in my life, actually. My wife and I had just found out we were pregnant with twins, and the church was needing a lot of help in the financial realm, and that was one of the things I was really good at. So it was kind of natural fit for me to step in and help with some of those executive roles. And being a youth pastor, you're out a lot. You're gone a lot, and you're out late at night. But when you're going to be the father of twins, that's going to have to change quickly.
Absolutely.
So we went from a family of 2 to a family of 4 overnight. It was an interesting transition, but it was a whirlwind because we were busy with having our boys. When our boys were born in 2009, it seemed like our lives changed very quickly. So we know it was a God move, and it was the right thing that led us in that direction.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me about Kings River. What makes that fellowship of believers impactful in the community?
Well, Kings River is a very unique, amazing church. We're located right on the outskirts of St. Albans, but our congregation is so diverse. We have a lot of people that come from the Charleston area, and we have people that come from the Huntington area. So we have people from very, very diverse backgrounds and families. The church has gone through a lot of transition and change over the years. I guess the most interesting was really how God opened the doors for Community Bridge to come into being, and how it has really changed the church as a whole.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? How Community Bridge came into being?
I've been at that church now for 26 years now, is about where I'm approaching. For years and years and years, we never had a foster child in the church. We had one family that had adopted a baby in China, and that was the only child we have in the church that was not biological parents. And that started changing about 5-6 years ago. I brought a youth pastor on, and him and his wife had adopted 5 children. And so that brought a new dynamic into the body. We had some other families that started attending that had adopted children. So all of a sudden, we have all of these foster kids or adopted children in the church. So we had someone that, a family that donated some clothing to the church and said, hey, we thought maybe you guys could give these to kids that could use them. And so someone else said, well, there's a concept called a foster closet. Let's start a foster closet. So this was going on in the pandemic is when this was happening. So I said, okay, let's do it. We had an open 435 square foot closet in the back of our church. And I said, well, we'll take that little closet and make a foster closet. But one thing I do know, as I said, Kings River cannot fix the foster issues that this state faces. And I said, so let's not put it under the church. Let's put it under Community Bridge. Let's invite all the churches in the community, and let's invite all the community at large to be a part of it and see what happens. I had no idea how in that moment God was directing me. January 1 of 2021 is when it went live. And we had our little closet loaded with tubs of clothing. And we told DHHR that we said, hey, if your social workers have a child placement, we'd love for you to send them our direction. If we have anything that can help them, we'll be glad to give it to them. So we started getting a few phone calls. So we dedicated a phone line to this thing and started putting out flyers. Hey, we got a foster closet. We started telling churches, you want to be a part of this, you're welcome to. If you've got clothes you want to donate, we'll take them. Well, the community started responding. Donations started coming in. And so we decided let's open up every third Saturday. We take appointments, but let's open up every third Saturday and tell all these organizations, just tell people to walk in the door. And if they walk in the door, they've got foster children, we'll help them on spot. Now, in that room, we had tubs of clothing, but in the center of the floor, we had one stroller that had been donated, one bumbo seat for a kid, and one bouncy. And these 3 big things were in the middle of the floor, and these ladies were walking around them to pull clothes for these kids. And on that first Saturday that we opened, we had, I think, around 12 different people that walked through the door. And in those 12, we had someone that requested a stroller, someone requested a bumbo seat, someone requested a bouncy. And our ladies were excited. They said, wow, we gave away the big stuff. Because we're just going to be a foster closet with clothes, okay? Before we left that day, a pickup truck pulled over the top of the hill. And a woman got out and she said, I heard what you're doing to help foster children. And she said, I work with daycares in St. Albans and I brought you some donations. And I was like, oh, that's great. Come on, pull around the side of the building. We'll bring them in. I, along with about 3-4 other people, walked out those doors to help her. And in the back of that truck, there were garbage bags of clothes, but I kid you not, there was also 2 strollers, 2 bumbo seats, and 2 bouncies.
They're multiplying.
Yes. Someone standing next to me said, whoa, if we give it away, it comes back double. Well, that's God math. And I knew right then we were in a lot of trouble. Oh, So donations kept coming in. It started taking over classrooms in the back of the church. As the pastor, I'm panicking now. We can't give away stuff fast enough. We start contacting schools. In October of 21, we contacted the public school system, and we started giving out letters to teachers. And we said, hey, we started out helping foster kids. We now want to help all kids in need. We know you as an educator can't tell us their personal situation, but if you'll email us just their age, race, and gender and tell us what that kid needs, we'll gladly deliver it to the school for you to give that kid no questions asked. We just want to help our kids, is what we said. We started getting inundated. So we're driving stuff to schools. So that happened in October 21. By the end of the year, we'd helped 300 children. And we thought, wow, this is great. First year we've ever done this. We helped 300 kids. So beginning of the year of 22, where donations kept coming in. It's starting to fill up the hallways in the church. We can't give away stuff fast enough. But our church voted in February of that year at our business meeting to take a step of faith towards Community Bridge. And we decided that we would borrow $275,000 to put up an 8,000 square foot building. We didn't have any money to finish the inside, and we said, we're going to trust God. If God's in it, he'll take care of it. So we borrowed the money, and that was in February. We had someone that came over our hill one day from another church, and they said, hurry what you're doing. There's a place in Kentucky that helps us, and they give us clothing sometimes, and we thought some of the clothes would help you. And they dumped 30 boxes of clothing in the foyer of our church. And I said to Jennifer, I said, okay, I said, where did this stuff come from? Who are they partnered with in Kentucky? And she said, they said it was a place called Christian Appalachian Project. And I said, well, contact them and see if they'll partner with us. And so that's how we made the contact with Christian Appalachian Project. And we filled out to become a partner with CAP. And what's really cool to see how God is so in things. It ties right into something you said at the beginning of this. The day that we sent that application in, right after I sent it, I got a phone call from the homeless office of Kanawha County Schools. And this woman says, I got a hold of one of your letters, and I'm calling to see if you're really for real. I said, well, yes, ma'am, we are. She goes on to educate me that in Kanawha County, there are on an average school year, there's over 800 students categorized as homeless. You started out talking about the homeless children in the schools in West Virginia. I'm a pastor of a church, and I'd been at this church close to 20 years, and I had no clue that was going on in my community. And that's part of what I've learned through this process is we don't really know what's going on in our communities. We've got to get involved. And so when she told me that, and she gave us a situation that we were going to respond and help that weekend with our first family through the school systems, I went back and I emailed Christian Appalachian Project. And I was like, well, this is like supporting documentation. And I said, I just learned, I believe this is a God sent. And I said, I really hope we can work together. And the next thing I know, just a little while later, we were approved, and they were talking about sending us a load of stuff. And I didn't even know what that meant. And when we had that first phone call, they said they were bringing a truckload. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, a semi. So if we're really going to be a church that's going to make a difference in our communities, then it's not about how it looks, is it? It doesn't have to look pretty.
And God always, he's multiplying, and he'll bring the people to you.
So we didn't have our building. Our building wasn't even there yet. But I can't turn down that semi-load because we have people that desperately need it.
Yeah.
So we took down a section of chairs in our sanctuary, and we unloaded that truck right in our sanctuary. And I said, it may not look pretty, but it doesn't have to look pretty because we're going to help people. And we had church in the middle, and we had boxes all the way around the room. And it looked like a mess, but I don't care how it looks. It was changing people's lives.
Absolutely.
So that second year, we helped a little over 3,000 people. And
from 300 the first year to 3,000. That's God math, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we were working on our building, and like the vocational school, the public vocational school, used public school students to prefab our walls, and we let them use our building as a live classroom, and the students erected all of our walls, so we had no labor in it. United Way laid the carpet. We had volunteers from other churches, and our church hung sheetrock. It was a community collaboration that put that building up, and we watched God every step of it. So last year, 23, by the end of the year, we had paperwork that had been filled out through our resource center for over 6,000 people that had come through.
Wow.
Yeah. So we officially moved in that building January of this year, and it has more than doubled in the first 4 months of this year already.
That's amazing.
We're watching God do beautiful things here. It's incredible. When the churches get outside of our walls, and when we actually go out in the community where the people are and we start being the hands and feet of Jesus, we start seeing our communities change, our neighborhoods change, and our people and our states will change. And so we're watching families transformed one life at a time.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know that 1 in 5 children in Appalachia go to bed hungry? Many children look forward to their summer vacation from school, but there are girls and boys whose families depend on free school meals to stretch their paychecks. With your support, children and families suffering from hunger won't need to worry about where their meals come from. Your support will ensure lunches are delivered to hungry children throughout the region. Visit christianapp.org to give today.
So tell me a little bit about Community Bridge. I know on your website there's 3 components. There's a resource center, there's outreach, and there's a recovery aspect. Why those 3 areas?
Okay, well, we started out first with foster. We started helping foster children because per capita, West Virginia sits at one of the highest in children rated in the foster system. So we were helping those foster kids. So that was the first step. Then it became, why are all these kids in the system? They're in the system by and large. A lot of the situations are dealing with substance use issues that their parents face. So we're going, okay, now let's help the parents. So we started a 12-step recovery program using Living Free material. It's actually out of Kentucky. We started our 12-step. I invited a lady that has an incredible testimony of coming out of drug addiction and an amazing story that now works in recovery. And I asked her, I said, look, I know you work at this hospital in their recovery wing. I said, but would you be our recovery coordinator for Community Bridge? I said, I can't pay you anything. I said, but I'd love to have you help. And she said, well, I will. She said, I've got a problem. I said, well, what's the problem? And she said, we've got people that are coming in the hospital that are going to recovery. And she said, their parents, their families are pretty much done with them by this point. And she said, we're trying to get them off of whatever they're on. And she said, but we're struggling trying to find what clothes they're going to wear the next day. And some of them even come to us with no shoes. She said, you've got the stuff, but I can't get the people there. She said, so how do we fix this? And I said, Mandy, you're empowered. Do whatever you want. Go work out something. You're the coordinator. So she goes to the director of St. Francis Addiction Healing Center, and they make Community Bridge part of their patient intake process.
Wow.
And so we customize forms that if they come into recovery, do you need socks, shoes, underwear? What sizes are they? That form comes to us. It's packed in our resource center. Then it goes back to the facility in a cinch backpack with a letter that says you've taken the right step. We so support the step you've taken. When you finish this step, we'd love to continue walking with you. And we invited them then to be part of our 12-step program. So we started watching God open amazing doors.
Yeah.
So then about 18 other recovery programs in the community followed suit, and they all have customized forms now. They send us in paperwork. All the time, we're continuing to grow in partnerships. We're sitting right now today at close to 218 partnerships with churches, nonprofits, businesses, community organizations, recovery programs, hospitals, you name it, that we take referrals through and we connect people to. So the one part was recovery. By the time we did that, we started helping families through the court system get custody of their kids back. So now, when they come out of their sober living situation, a good sober living home will help them find a place to live and will help them secure employment before they leave. Okay, well, most of the time that employment's minimum wage. They find them a place to live. They don't have anything in that place to live. It's just a roof over their head. Why do they keep going back? Why do they keep going back to their addiction? Well, they're making the minimum wage and they're coming home and they have nothing and they don't even have a couch to sit on. And it's kind of like, I don't have anything. I'm never going to get ahead. And they get discouraged and depressed. But if we've stepped in and helped them with clothing in their recovery program, and then we've got them involved in our 12-step and we're staying connected with them, then they're getting a place to live. What if we step in and give them furniture and give them some tables and chairs and give them some stuff to give them some self-worth? Then they come home, they're not depressed. They feel like, hey, there's people with me. My community is supporting me.
Yeah.
So then we walked about 6 through the court systems. They got custody of their kids back. From there, we learned that they didn't know how to cook. Some of them, so you're talking about the statistics of this state. Well, some of them are 2nd and 3rd generation users. They don't know how to cook. So now we've had to start cooking classes to help them learn how to cook and learn how to prepare kid-friendly family meals. So we've just basically stepped through every door that God's opened for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I know we could not do what we do at Christian Appalachian Project without our staff and without volunteers. And I wonder if you could share a story about, I know you mentioned Mandy. I'm sure you have other amazing volunteers. I wonder if you can share a story about a volunteer with Community Bridge.
Our volunteers are amazing. They are the only way this happens. God has empowered our volunteers. This has it's changed the culture of our church, and it's changing culture in this community. We have about 8 core volunteers, I guess you could say, that are all retired. They're in their late 60s to mid 80s. And they give 20 to 40 hours a week volunteer time to Community Bridge. Community Bridge doesn't have we don't have paid employees. Community Bridge doesn't have the fund to pay anybody right now. It's all volunteer driven. Last month, we had 70 different people that volunteered in Community Bridge, and they gave right at 1,300 volunteer hours.
Wow. That is amazing. That is a culture, a spirit of service as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We make that difference. What kind of needs are you seeing in addition to what you mentioned? Are there other areas you said that as God opens up doors, you all just walk through them? Are there other things that you see on the horizon that you're like, God might be opening that door to us? We should be prepared for what might come next.
Oh, well, you had to bring that up now. Well, here's our latest donation. We just had a church in the community, Maranatha Fellowship, amazing church. They have a food truck that they go out and do outreach with this food truck. And this church has been feeling a change in direction. And they called us about a week and a half ago and wanted us to pray about, and I've been over there to meet with them. They are donating their food truck to Community Bridge. So now we are going to have a food truck to where we can now go out into areas and we can go to events and we can go different places and love our community while we give them hamburgers and hot dogs and just love them.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear about those partnerships of how you maximize the impact by partnering together. Like, I know our president says a lot, like CAP doesn't have to be the one that does it. It's not about getting credit for it. It is figuring out, like, we can give this thing to this other partner who's doing this other work in this other community. And it sounds like you all really, God is allowing churches not to be like, oh, I'm this denomination, or oh, we're doing this. But everybody's just like, whatever it takes to make it happen for the community.
Bream Presbyterian in Charleston is one of our big partners. They do homeless outreach. They have a medical clinic. They have feeding programs. Through Christian Appalachian Project, we're able to supply them with drinks and snacks and all the needed items they have. Christ's Kitchen at St. Mark's Episcopal in St. Albans feeds the homeless 6 days a week. We're able to provide the drinks and all the needed items through them. So that's how this works. It's all of us working together doing our part.
That's a lot. You talk about recovery, children who are homeless, just different hardships. How do you find purpose in your work when it would be easy to become discouraged?
You've got to look for the small wins. You've got to make it people focused. You know what? It can be very busy. It can be hard. You can be overwhelmed. We all get overwhelmed. The need is so great that if you just focus on that need and how great the need is, it can weigh you down. But you've got to look at where's the crack? Where's the one person? Where's the light where you can see a difference is being made? It's in the mom that walks in, that sits down and fills out a referral form, and she's embarrassed. And she says, I've never done this before. I've never asked for help. I've never asked for assistance. She says, my husband has a good job, but we have 3 children. And she's sitting there with a 5-month-old baby and the baby carrier sitting next to her. And she says, we live on a fixed income. Our rent has gone up. Our grocery bill has gone up. All of our utilities gone up. And she said, we budget every dollar. She said, but we don't have money to buy clothes for the kids, and they've all outgrown their clothes, and she's horribly embarrassed. And we're sitting there going, we've got all the clothes you need, honey. Let's take care of that. And her face just completely changes. It's the little win. It's the one win. It's the veteran that we get off the street through the American Job Center, through our hub, the homeless veterans, that we have a guy up there that works with veterans. And he has been taking them off the street, bringing them into our resource center, helping them with needed items, and then taking them to a shelter and starting the process of getting them to reestablish life again. Yeah. So the wins come one person at a time.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. That's amazing. Those are hopeful stories that I think we all have to latch on to in these times that feels like we just bounce from one crisis to another in the country. But to hear those stories of hope and resilience, and that we can make a difference in the community and the lives of other people, that you just have to look for those opportunities that God brings your way. So yeah, we talked a lot about kids today and the needs of kids. We talked about kids in schools and family resource center. Actually, you started out ministering to kids and serving families with foster children. This summer, we're going to get a chance to partner together. So I'm super excited about that with a partnership that CAP has to our Operation Sharing Program, Good 360 and Toys for Tots. So tell me what that distribution is going to mean for your community as we'll be bringing truckloads of toys to West Virginia.
Oh, T, we're so excited about this. This will be a first. A lot of what we're trying to do is we're trying to educate the community that we're here and we're here to help. And really, with Christian Appalachian Project's help and Toys for Tots, we're going to be able to get to people and places in this community that we never have before, and it's all going to happen in a few hours. With these semis that will roll in loaded with toys, we're blitzing the community now, and we're hoping to really get people out of their neighborhoods, out of their homes. We want them to see the community come together, and we want to see them come through the line and be loved on. And so you all are facilitating that and making it possible. And I cannot tell you thank you enough for helping with this and for loving the people of West Virginia. So thank you for that. So we're so excited. And also the fact that we're going to have so many volunteers from so many different churches there together. I mean, it's going to be beautiful.
The mission statement of Christian Appalachian Project is building hope, transforming lives, and sharing Christ's love through service in Appalachia. When you think of these 4 words, hope, transformation, love, and service, which one resonates with you the most when you think about Appalachia?
I have to say love. Everything that we're doing, that's what it's centered around. It's centered around loving God. It's centered around loving people and loving our community. They will know you're my disciples by your love for one another. And so that's what we're all trying to do, is we're all trying to show them Jesus by loving on them.
That's awesome. What a great way to end the show. It's just been wonderful talking with you today and learning more about Community Bridge. Today, our guest has been Pastor Chris Kimbro, lead pastor of Kings River Worship Center and the director of Community Bridge. We hope you've enjoyed Season 3 of The Mountain Spirit, a podcast of Christian Appalachian Project. You can follow the work of Christian Appalachian Project on all social media channels. If you missed an episode this season or any of our previous seasons, you can find past episodes on our YouTube channel. Just search for the Mountain Spirit Podcast. Share episodes with your friends and ask them to check us out too. You can find the show online at christianapp.org/podcast or anywhere you get your favorite podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a new episode. We'll be back with season 4, our 60-year anniversary edition in August. Thank you for your support.